Hi, and welcome to your first recorded class. So, as I said last week, we will begin discussing Arundhati Roy's God of Small Things. All right. So, let's quickly begin by discussing a little bit about what we know about Arundhati Roy. So, Arundhati Roy was born in the year 1961. All right, and she was born in Shillong. Okay, in Guwahati to Shillong road, just like our characters, but we'll come to that. So she grew up in Aymanam in Kottayam, all right, and her mother was a Syrian Christian and her father was a Bengali Hindu, and her parents were divorced when she was very young, and her mother returned to Kerala after they were divorced. She has an elder brother, and when she was 16 years old she left home and she went to live in Delhi, and then she studied architecture. Okay, and after that she started writing. Ever since she was a very young person, she had uh, this activist tendencies within her, okay, wherein she wanted to do something about all the wrong things that were happening around her, and that is how she started writing. Now Arundhati Roy is someone who mostly writes non-fictional works, okay, but this particular novel, The God of Small Things, was her first novel, okay, and it's only almost 20 years later that she wrote her second novel, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. So she has only two novels that she has written, and she took actually that much amount of time to write her second novel. All right, so she is a writer. She writes for film as well as for television. She writes many controversial essays and articles about politics and Indian culture. All right, and if you get time, please do go and read up her writings. You must be familiar about her activism and her works, because she is a person who is very well known to all of us, right? So this particular work, The God of Small Things, was published in the year 1997, and it won the Booker Prize, all right, award the following year. That is a little bit about Arundhati Roy. I'm not going to discuss much about her as such, because you will already get all you need to know about her from your Wikipedia pages. So please do go look her up and try and understand her before you go on to a full analysis of her works. Yes, so let's start talking about the work as such. Okay, now I want to begin talking. If you have read the work, you must have. I don't know if you all, noticed this, but I want to talk a little bit about this. Okay, this is the epigraph of the particular work, and look at what's written. Never again will a single story be told as though it's the only one. Okay, now this is from John Berger's book G. All right, and this is very interesting. Okay, look at how she is introducing her story almost. Okay, she's saying that there in every story, all right, usually when you hear a story, you hear it from one particular perspective, right? But after reading this particular work, what will happen, according to Arundhati Roy, is that never again will you believe that there is only one side to a story. Okay, because every story has multiple sides, and we'll come back to this particular line in the end. All right, because then we will understand why she has used this particular line to introduce her book. Okay, so I just want you to remember this particular line as you progress through your reading of the book. Now, to talk a little bit about the background of the work, all right, the setting is in Aymanam in the district of Kottayam. I think many of you will be familiar with that particular place. But according to Arundhati Roy, this is a fictional place. Okay, നമുക്കിപ്പോൾ അറിയാവുന്ന അയമനമല്ല എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്, that she has made it as a fictional locale. Okay, much like our R.K. Narayan's Malgudi. Okay, this is a fictional locale, and it is set in Kerala in the late 1960s. All right, one thing that is very particular about this novel is that it is a non-linear narrative. Okay, what does linear mean? Linear means chronological. That the king died and then the queen was sad, so she died. All right. So that is how chronology goes in a plot. But the plot of this particular novel does not go in that manner. It does not go linearly. Okay. It is all mixed up. It goes from the past to the present, and then it goes completely somewhere else. All right. So it is non-linear. So it begins by telling us what is going to happen, but then as she progresses through the novel, she'll tell us why it happened and how it happened. All right. So fragmentation of self, all that will we can discuss all that only after we actually complete the novel. But just remember, this is the key things that we notice as soon as we read the work. Okay, the self is not there because your two characters, Rahel and Esther, do they have a self, is something that you need to continually ask yourself as you read the works. That is why I put it here. All right. And there is linguistic interplay. If you read the first chapter, that is what I asked you to do. The use of language, all right, the kind of language that is used, it is written mostly from Rahel as a child, her perspective, right? So there is a mixing up of words. There is random capitalization in the middle of sentences. You will see there is a random capitalization. Sometimes words are written in the opposite direction because the twins, they like to read words upside down. Okay, so all of those things are done. Now why they are done is something that we'll discuss later, but why I'm putting it all here is because I want you to notice all this as you read the novel. All right. This novel is rich in imagery and details. The very minute things are detailed in a very elaborate manner. Okay, and this is probably again because of the perspective from which it is written. It is written from the perspective of Rahel, the child. Okay, and children notice very small intricate details, and that is probably why we have so many details and imagery that is there. Rahel is a character who has a very rich imagination. Okay, and this comes into notice as we read the novel. And again, unconventional syntax that will again come within the linguistic interplay. Okay, of how the kind of sentences, there is a full stop, there is no comma, punctuation, grammar, spellings, everything is being played with in this particular novel. So when and as and when you read the novel and you notice any of these, please make a note of all that. All right, because I might miss things. I don't want you to miss things, so please make a note of all this as you read the novel. All right. So yes, she often breaks conventional rules of spelling, grammar, syntax, and punctuation. Okay, we'll come to all of that. And there's sporadic capitalization and employs phonetics. Okay, sometimes when you read the novel, you'll see that just as a child is pronouncing something, there's this pronunciation, the spelling. Okay, where baby Kochama is forcing the twins to talk in English and make sure that the pronunciation is correct. That is where this comes in. Okay, so please notice all of these things. Okay, we'll come to all of these information towards the end. All right, so let's begin by talking about the novel. All right, so the novel, the main characters as it seems to us in the beginning are the twins, the twin children, Rahel and Esther. Now these two are not identical twins. They are fraternal, dizygotic, something like that, twins. Okay, that means that they were two fertilized eggs were there and they were in different eggs. Usually twins are born from one egg. Okay, and that is how they become identical. But these two were dizygotic because they were not from one fertilized egg, and that is why they are not identical. All right, and those are the main characters. The other characters that we come across are Ammu, who is their mother, baby Kochama, who is their grand aunt, that is, it is Ammu's aunt. Okay, Mamachi and Papachi are Ammu's parents. All right, and baby Kochama is Papachi's sister. All right, unmarried sister. Then there is Chaco, who is Ammu's brother. There is Veluta, who is their servant, sort of. Okay, and there is Baba, there is their father, who is never coming into the story, but he is mentioned now and then. All right, now basically this entire story is about the complexities that are there within one Indian family. All right. And as these complexities are presented to us, we have to question the social and the cultural boundaries. We have to question the social and cultural ideologies that exist in our land. All right. And throughout the story, as we have already said, there is a use of flashbacks. Okay, you're going back into the past, and then flash forwards where you're going back into the coming back to the present. All right. And why this is done is because, according to Arundhati Roy, in this particular novel, every small thing is connected to the big thing. All right. So everything is building up. All the small events that are described in this particular story build up towards the climax. And that is why, it is important for her to tell us every single thing that happened. And that is why she continuously goes forward and goes backwards to tell us how everything is connected to each other. All right. So the first chapter is Paradise, Pickles and Preserves. Right. So when you read the novel, okay, it begins by introducing Aymanam. All right, it talks about how May in Aymanam is a hot brooding month. The days are long and humid. Those are the first lines, right? And she's giving us in the first page completely. Okay, she's giving us a description of this particular place called Aymanam. She's painting a mental picture for us of how this place looks like. Okay, and then she goes on to describe the house, which is very very old. Okay, and it is locked and it almost looks empty. Okay, unfurnished, but it is not. People are living there. And she describes the house and she talks about the Plymouth, the car that is parked outside. Okay, and if you see, okay, the sky blue Plymouth with chrome tail fins was still parked outside, and inside baby Kochama was still alive. Okay, the very very particular use of language, right? So outside the car is still standing there just as it used to stand years ago, and inside the house baby Kochama is still alive just as she was all those years ago. Okay, so why she's saying is because then she goes on to say that baby Kochama is her grand aunt and her name is Navami Eep, right? And everyone called her baby, so she became baby Kochama. Then she goes on to say that Rahel, why? What is the purpose of saying all this? Then that is when we know that Rahel is the one from whose perspective we are listening to the story, and Rahel is returning to Aymanam after a gap. Okay, it's almost 23 years, but that is comes to us only later how many years it has been. But it has been a long time എന്നുള്ള impression ആണ് കിട്ടുന്നത്. So it has been a long time since Rahel has been gone, and she's returning to Aymanam. Why? Because she's returning to meet her twin brother Esther. Okay, and Estefan was older to her by 18 minutes. Okay, and then she talks about how they did not look like each other much even when they were thin. All right, and look at how she says, Esther and Rahel, and even when they were thin-armed children, flat-chested, worm-ridden and Elvis Presley pluffed, there was none the usual who is who. Usually with twins, everyone says ആരാണ് മനസ്സിലാവുന്നില്ല എന്നൊക്കെ. അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു confusion ഇല്ലായിരുന്നു. They always looked quite different even when they were thin and worm വരെയൊക്കെ പിടിച്ചിരുന്ന ആ ഒരു കാലത്ത് പോലും they used to look very very different എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. Okay, and in those early amorphous years when memory had only just begun. Okay, look at the kind of beautiful language that is used. When life was full of beginnings and no ends and everything was forever. She's talking about childhood. അതായത് ഓർമ്മകൾ തുടങ്ങിയിട്ടേ ഉള്ളൂ. Then when life was full of beginnings, everything is beginning, there is no end, there is no full stop. Okay, and everything that exists in childhood seems like it's going to be forever. She's talking about that beautiful time. Okay, so during childhood, Esther and Rahel used to think of themselves as one. Okay, they used to think Esteban and Rahel thought of themselves together as me. അതായത് ഒരുമിച്ച് അവരെ കുറിച്ച് ചിന്തിക്കുമ്പോൾ they don't use we, they used to think of themselves as me. So they used to feel like they are a single unit. Okay, and separately when they used to talk about themselves, they would say ഞാൻ എന്ന് പറയില്ല, ഞങ്ങൾ എന്നേ പറയുള്ളൂ. Okay, so together they were a we and separately they were we or us. Okay, as though they were like Siamese twins. Okay, even though they were not connected by body, they had a very connected soul is what